and welcome to the Grand Debate, the most intriguing, interesting, and educative debate that you're going to come across. And of course, I cannot go on without introducing the universities that have come here to battle their wits. I'm your moderator, Kazia Musuka. We have universities that come into this program and actually showcase their talent in debate, but also discussing important issues facing governance, corruption, political parties, and different things that are affecting us right here in society. We'd like to thank University of Zambia, that is represented by Jeff and Moses. Welcome.
Thank you.
And also Eden Universities that have sent their representative, Emmanuel and Isaiah.
Well, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. And of course, this show cannot be made possible without TIZ, Transparency International Zambia. Remember, this show is a debate. TIZ does not support or oppose any political party. Theirs is to make sure that we force more conversation around the fight against corruption in government system and in our society. Well, this show is going to be interesting. We are going to be discussing the 2021 general elections. Are they going to be free and fair? Today, the teams will be opposing and proposing that motion. When we come back from the commercial break, you get to hear what they have to say about whether these elections are going to be free and fair. Welcome back to the Grand Debate. And as I said, we're going to be discussing the issue of the elections this year. Are they going to be free and fair? What are elections? Elections, we're all geared up to vote in these elections. Elections are meant to be free and fair for its citizens, but also in a democratic society. That job now is left to government to make sure that the citizens are made to feel safe as they're casting their vote. In Zambia, the presidential elections and the National Assembly all take place simultaneously, and we vote for the next 5 years. The debaters in the audience will be telling us whether they oppose or propose the motion that the elections are going to be free and fair. The opposing team, may you please take a seat? And I'll call upon the proposing team from Eden to start with their opening statement.
Thank you very much for the call. My name is Emmanuel Sakala Jr., currently serving as Eden University President, and we are proposing to the motion that stipulates, as I quote, do you think 2021 general elections are going to be free and fair? Of course we do. Looking at the factors, allow me just to define the keywords in our motion that are free and fair. It is defined, free and fair, it is defined as the most fundamental principle defining credible elections in that which must reflect the free expression of the will of the people. To achieve this, election shall be transparent, inclusive, and accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Isaiah, also coming from Eden University, just a general student. As my colleague has said, we are proposing to the motion that the elections are going to be free and fair. And strongly, as Eden University, we believe that these elections are going to be free and fair, of course, backed by our feasible and objective research that we've done regarding these matters. Like my colleague just defined the terms free and fair, I would like to say a free and fair election is an election where you are no longer confined or imprisoned. And I want to believe as Zambians, every 12 August, as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia, we do go to the polls, and nobody gets to vote under confinement or imprisonment. So we do believe that these elections are going to seriously be free, and they are going to be fair, as also exhibited by the electoral body, the ECZ, through various and numerous processes that they have undertaken, including the voter registration, releasing to us the registered voters, of course, the printing of ballots. We can talk about the free and fair campaigns, working with the stakeholders, the police, the students' movements, the church, the faith-based organizations, the NGOs, the civil society organizations, and of course, all of us as the citizens of this country.
Thank you very much. Please take your seat. And the opposing team will be opened by Moses.
My name is Moses Lisa, the Debate Society Chief Finance Officer. and operative hierarchy, debating on the motion that states, as I strongly articulate. Do you think the 2021 general elections is going to be free and fair? End of articulation. Now, being the first speaker, it is my duty to rebuttal the definition of the key concepts in order to create a more transparent and more conceptual understanding of the motion. Now, members of the House and the House of Intellectuals, Cambridge Dictionary defines general elections as elections in which the people living in a country, they go to vote for the government. End of quotation. Now, what are free and fair elections? Members of the House and the House of Intellectuals, at Civics Academy, they clearly define a free election being considered where people can decide whether or not to vote freely for the candidate or party of their choice. A free election is also one where you are confident that who you vote for remains your secret. They further define fair, meaning that in this regard, fair means that all registered political parties have an equal right to contest the elections, campaign for voter support, and hold meetings and rallies fairly. Now, members of the House and indeed House of Intellectuals, with such definition, we are going to base our argument as the opposition on the following factual, realistic, but rather they are unconstitutional and undemocratic points. First and foremost, political corruption, propaganda from political players, political violence. And then we are looking at unbiasedness, or the biasness in the enforcement of the Electoral Code of Conduct on political players by the Electoral Commission of Zambia and relevant authorities. We are also basing our argument on the uneven political coverage by public media houses and even private media houses. We are also going to base our argument on the infringements of the freedom of assembly and association, the freedom of expression, and the freedom of conscience, where our people, they cannot even have the free will or the right to participate to their political party of their own choice, because they are afraid that cadres, they might beat them whenever they showcase whenever they exercise their right. Now, are those free and fair elections? I will leave that to the propositions to come and answer that one. And lastly, but not the least, we are going to base our argument on the fact that the political arenas and the political environment, they are not conducive for these elections. Because even within political spheres, these political parties, they are not free and fair. Evidence will be provided in the second session. I rest my case.
Thank you. Mr. Jeff, would you like to add to that opening motion? Transparency International is inclusive. We have women, men, and visually impaired and disabled, so that everyone gets a chance to debate, because this society involves each and every one, and each and every Zambian's voice counts. Thank you very much.
It is with great ecstasy that I profuse my profound gratitude to the relevant authorities behind the success of this intellectuals event. In a nutshell, all authorities present are highly acknowledged according to the order of seniority. The motion under scrutiny reads as follows. Do you think Zambia will have a 2021 general election that's free and fair? The motion to which I, together with my colleague here, firmly oppose due to the following facts. Members of the dignified auditorium, it is common knowledge that the Electoral Code of Conduct has been adversely misapplied. The Electoral Code of Conduct itself has been misapplied, especially when dealing with the opposition political parties in our country. That is something that we are going to look at firmly with substantiated reasoning or facts. Members of the dignified auditorium, one other thing that we should look at also is the fact that political corruption in these elections is at its peak. And we don't need a sightful eye for one to see the red light that's beaming in these general elections that will soon be conducted on the 12th of August this year. Members of the dignified auditorium, my colleague here stated the fact that for elections to be qualified, be called free and fair, the playing field has to be leveled amongst all political players. Unfortunately, in our country, it is not the case. Members of the dignified auditorium, we have also seen the escalating levels of the vastness in the implementation of the Public Order Act by the relevant authorities. In this case, we are talking of the Zambia police. Members of the dignified auditorium, we have the Public Order Act developing teeth only when it's dealing with those that are in the opposition. But when it comes to those that are in the ruling party, it's a white elephant, members of the dignified auditorium. It's so unfortunate. Allow me to also say that as a visually impaired person, members of the dignified auditorium, I would be very, very unreasonable to agree that the elections that will be coming soon will be free and fair, owing to the fact that I feel excluded. It is just a few days ago that I was listening to news on one of the media houses, members of the dignified auditorium, and they were complaining. The Zambia Agency of Persons with Disability was complaining of ECZ, Electoral Commission of Zambia, leaving them out, not consulting them on the braille jackets that are supposed to be used by the visually impaired to use in voting. How then can we say that these elections will be free and fair? I beg to disagree. Thank you very much. Hope to sum it up with factual points in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I said this was going to be an intriguing debate, and we're still going on. The now proposing team will give us their rebuttal to actually counter their opening statement.
Thank you for the call. Whenever wise people speak, they make knowledge attractive. They know what to do. They walk a road that leads to success. They progress. Allow me to state that one Zambia, one people, equal rights, freedom for all. Bona fide assembled of the intellectuals. Allow me to rebut to some of the factors that were raised by the opposition. I quoted the opposition telling the House that the Electoral Code of Conduct has been tampered with. You would agree with me that the Electoral Code of Conduct is set, and it is there because a lot of political parties, all political parties and political players or stakeholders in these elections are following it. It is not only one-sided to the ruling party, and I want to educate the opposing delegation that let's differentiate between the government and the political parties. Bona fide assembled of the intellectuals, you would agree with me that in every election, there are a lot of stakeholders. These include the media, the police, the monitors, and the donor communities, the civil societies, and faith-based organizations. Bona fide assembled of the intellectuals. With all these people being stakeholders, including you as an individual, you are a stakeholder in these free and to make these elections free and fair. If you say these elections will not be free and fair, meaning you yourself, you are not free, you are not fair to yourself, and you're not doing justice to our country. With that being said, bona fide assembled of the intellectuals, allow me to quote to what the opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema said on the 28th of August when he had a rally in Kanyama, of which I'll provide evidence to the judges, where he praised the police officers for the professional work exhibited when he toured Kanyama for his rally. Bona fide assembled of the intellectuals. If that is not fair enough, what then should fair be defined? With that being said, bona fide assembled of the intellectuals, you would agree with me that according to Article 2 of the Electoral Code of Conduct in Section 105 of 2016, it states, as I quote, a person shall during an election campaign or election promote conduct conducive, free participation, and they will be bound to the Electoral Code of Conduct. Bona fide assembled of the intellectuals. You would agree with me that when these people are filing in nomination, they are supposed to subscribe to the Electoral Code of Conduct that promotes free and fair elections, violent free campaigns. Bona fide assembled of the intellectuals. If Electoral Commission of Zambia is an independent board, and it being independent board, that in itself is free and fairness. Members of the auditorium, you would agree with me, you wouldn't agree with me further, that when I say that the Electoral Commission has punished all political parties that have done violence or have campaigned violently. Right now, the political party, Patriotic Front and UPND, are not allowed to hold their campaigns because of the violence that they exhibited. Is that not free and fair enough? I rest my case.
Thank you, Nano. And we're going to the opposing team. Moses?
Appreciation goes to you, Madam Chairperson, for that wise call. Imiti ikula empanga. Nangula, another Bemba proverb that states, "Ich kwanka bashimwena kumampalanya." A good tree is seen by its fruits. Members of the House, indeed, House of Intellectuals, I don't want to be prophetic, but what I foresee with the sudden calamities that we have been faced with, the current political violence that has been propagating in our communities, it saddens me and it leaves me in a position where I strongly oppose to the motion that these 2021 general elections will be free and fair. Now, a lot of people, they are being violated. A lot of people, they are being threatened. Whenever they want to exercise their rights of conscience, their right of freedom, or the freedom to assemble. Now, members of the House, indeed House of Intellectuals, to prove that I'm a speaker who speaks from within and not from without, allow me to quote from a report that was done by Okida. They said to say Zambia is one of the fastest eroding democracies in the world. This is according to the varieties of democracy project VDEM, one of the most trusted sources of information on indicators of democracy, progress of or regression. The project of the 2020 report notes that Zambia has registered a remarkable rapid decline in the quality of democracy since the last election in 2016. Nor is there great optimism about the next set of elections. Now, mark that ending. There is no optimism about the next set of general elections. Members of the House, indeed House of Intellectuals, are these elections going to be free and fair if even within the political arenas of PF, we had witnessed Ino, the commander, well-known commander from Chawama constituency, being beaten when they went to welcome when they went to welcome Honorable Chimba Kambwiri as he went back and rejoined the PF. Is that free and fair? Honestly speaking, I will leave that to the proposition to come and tackle that. Not just that, but ECZ suspended PF and campaign as they earlier on said. But that just shows that there is so much violence. And if you are saying these elections, they're going to be free and fair, then on what grounds are they going to be free and fair if political parties are being banned to campaign? If roadshows, they're being banned to campaign, how will people make sound decisions? How will they make the choice to vote for which political party that is going to be accountable for the actions or the manifesto that is not sold to the people? Members of the House, indeed House of Intellectuals.
Your time is up.
With this
Thank
few
you very
but
much.
convincing points, I raise my case.
Members of the auditorium, thank you so much, Madam Moderator and the panel of adjudicators for this opportunity. I would say opposing to this motion is like you feel jealousy whenever your mother and your father kisses, and that is absolute nonsense. The elections of August 12 are not a myth in this country. And we are all alive to the fact that Zambia is one of the most peaceful countries on earth. And indeed, the international community has emulated that and recommended Zambia for it. I'll be quick to mention that the Electoral Code of Conduct is acceptable and applicable to all the political parties in the country. And it is therefore a lot of ignorance for the opposing side to say it is not being applied equally. Talking about the Constitution of Zambia, to be more precise, Article 7 of the 1991 and of course 2016 amended Constitution provides for a free and fair election in this country. Zambia is not a monarchy like Eswatini and other countries where there are kings and people are being laid under dictatorial means. We are under a democratic state and all our laws and rights are enshrined in our constitution. The Electoral Commission of Zambia has been engaging all the relevant stakeholders. And my fellow speaker from the proposing side did quote where the opposition, for example, the opposition political party leader, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, did applaud the police for applying the electoral code of conduct, to be precise, in Chawama, fairly to them. Coming to the case where the opposition raised about innocent Karimanshi, the law took its course, and I want to recommend the gentleman for having withdrawn the case from the court. We as Zambians are a Christian nation, and whatever took place at the PF Secretariat that fateful day was out of order from both sides. Members of the auditorium, ZNBC has introduced a program called Race to Mandayo. This also indicates that the public media space also is providing platforms to the political parties, both the ruling party and the opposition, to exhibit their manifestos and so on. We have seen where they invite members of, aspiring members of parliament from all the political parties to come and discuss that which they wish to do for their people. Coming to political violence, not long ago, and still, ECZ has put bans on campaigns for Lusaka province because of these same acts. So this also shows that the elections are going to be fair, because these laws are being applied equally to all the political parties. Talking about the differently abled, the PF, to be precise, has adopted people who are differently abled.
Your time is up.
It breaks my heart to listen to my fellow youths who are purportedly future leaders standing up in support to the motion under discussion. Then the only question I get to ask myself is, what kind of leaders are we going to have who cannot see the red light that is beaming so bright in these 2021 general upcoming elections? Members of the dignified auditorium, it is very, very disheartening to note that it is only in Zambia where you find political cadres with so much power than the law enforcement agencies. Members of the dignified auditorium, my colleague here earlier mentioned one renowned cadre by the name of Innocent Kalimanshi, who has on several occasions been noted on social media, throwing threats to opposition political leaders, organizing. This is somebody who has even come out openly, members of the dignified auditorium, calling himself American, wearing military combats, members of the dignified auditorium, which is against the law. But up to now, the police has not stepped out to bring him to book. Members of the dignified auditorium, what good is a foundation if you never build on it? We have good policies, yes. We have very, very good institutions that are supposed to undertake the electoral processes in our country, yes, but how effective are they? How efficient are they? These questions beg an answer, members of the dignified auditorium. For an election to be called free and fair, members of the dignified auditorium, it means that the entire electoral process have to be followed without fear or favor. We are talking about intimidation-free elections. We are talking about corruption-free elections. Members of the dignified auditorium, we have a report that was released recently on the 1st of July by Transparency International Zambia, dubbed the 2021 election project update. Members of the dignified auditorium, in that report, you will find the executive director of TIZ by the name of Maurice K. Nyambe. Mr. Maurice K. Nyambe, in this report, members of the dignified auditorium, bemoaned the cosmetic approach of government in the implementation of the Public Order Act and even the Electoral Code of Conduct. There's been so much biasness on the side of government and the agencies involved in running the electoral process as members of the dignified auditorium. One other thing that should be brought to light is that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is a body that is supposed to be autonomous, but it's so unfortunate that it's being interfered with by the government. The Electoral Commission of Zambia is supposed to be the referee, but we have members of the dignified auditorium. Thank you.
Well, this and many more intriguing debates will be brought to you weekly by Live Access Zambia. These will be debates that are centered around issues that affect us surrounding corruption and other parts. So, as we go on with this debate, our panel, our able panel of judges from TIZ are actually going over everything and every motions and the documentation that has been presented to them to support their opposing and proposing motions. When we come back, we're coming to the part that I really love, which is the cross-examination by both parties. See you after the break. Welcome back to the grand debate. Remember, we started this show with each team with their opening facts and rebuttals represented by Eden University and the University of Zambia. Just a reminder of the rules that we have in this debate show is that this is an equal opportunity floor and there will be no interruptions while the other speaker is giving their facts. We're coming into our cross-examination portion where you will each throw a question to your opposing team or proposing team, and you will have 1 minute to answer that question. On the other facts that you've presented already, documentation has already been given to the judges, fact finding, and also any other motions that you had to support your motions. All this has to be analyzed, and any false documentation will result in you being disqualified. Other than that, speaking, I hope you're ready. This is the part where wits have to be on you because you have no idea what Eden is going to ask, and Eden has no idea what the University of Zambia has up their sleeve. Can we have a representative from Eden ask the first question?
Thank you very much. I believe you don't jump into the river if you don't know how to swim. My question to the opposition is, why would you think all these political parties that are interested in the 2021 elections, why do you think they would want to waste resources, campaign, and their time if the elections will not be free and fair?
Thank you. I'll go straight to respond to your question. We have many people from where we're coming in our families who jump into marriages very happy, but a few months later, they divorce on unforeseen circumstances. It is the same. Political parties going to these elections, obviously trusting these institutions that have been mandated to carry out these elections, but unfortunately on the way, the law is not fairly implemented. Thank you.
Could you please?
Thank you. My question to the proposition is, I would like to get a clear definition of peace as it was used in the context, because we recently witnessed the PF and the UPND where they crashed here in Lusaka by Limatawa bus stations there, where they fought in pangas. We experienced bloodshed, and they say Zambia is a peaceful nation. So I would love to get a clear definition of peace in that context. What's the meaning of peace? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peace is not really the absence of war. Peace is when people can live in harmony and in unity. Just that incident itself. Those both political parties, after that, they were called and they sat together with the ECZ and they signed a memorandum of understanding that they will hold the free and fair election. And as such, they were subjected to a punishment. That's the reason why the UPND and PF cannot have campaigns in Lusaka province. Due to that, that is peace, because we don't want that to continue. Thank you.
Question?
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator, for the opportunity. My question to the opposition is, you did quite raise concern over the suspension of campaign rallies by the ECZ. Now, my question is, with the current escalating numbers of COVID-19 in our country and the globe at large, do you care for the lives of the Zambian people? Do you have it in mind that if this goes without any countermeasures, we might all die, and these elections we're talking about might not even be held? Do you care for the lives of the Zambians? And how do you wish the ECZ should then allow these rallies be conducted? Thank you.
Thank you. I would love to recommend the provision that ECZ had initiated on closing the public gatherings, but they provided roadshows. But then we have experienced the violation of the Honorable Chimba Kambwili, where he's promoting tribalism, and then he was banned from all campaigns. That shows that these political players, they are not free and fair. And how do we expect these elections to be free and fair if the political players in them, they are not free and fair, and even the political arenas, they are not free and fair? Thank you.
Okay. The last question from the opposing team.
To the proposing panel, kindly define political corruption. I'm deriving my question from your earlier definition of free and fair elections. So kindly define political corruption and substantiate your claim that these elections are devoid of political corruption. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. Political corruption cannot be defined under one umbrella, because corruption in itself is quite a missile, and it can be approached in so many ways. But these elections are corrupt-free because of the provisions which are enshrined in the electoral code of conduct. You spoke about the aspects of people being infringed on rights, and that code of conduct provides for all the answers to your question.
Well, thank you for that heated cross-examination. We now leave it into the able-bodied judges' hands to go over the details, the documentation, the presentation by both teams that have done a great job, and they will come back with us with what the results are and who will be the one taking the trophy today. Join us after the break.
My comments on the debates that were conducted 14th July 2021 as follows. The first one being for UNZA and Eden University. My comments are that UNZA had some decent arguments but had minor challenges such as the lack of backing data, and also the dress code for both teams was not up to standard, and both teams researched and prepared to an acceptable level.
Another interesting debate. Coming into the debate, I was really anxious and looking forward to see how the proposers would argue and debate, and what examples and research they had to offer. I do feel that because of the debate topic, maybe the proposers had limited research, but what they did well in was to provide examples in backing up their arguments. On the other hand, I feel the opposers, they researched very well, but they did not capitalize on that research to give examples so as to make their points effective and to come strongly. During the cross-examination, I do feel like both teams wobbled, but I think that overall Eden University asked relevant questions to the motion, while UNZA did not really think through their questions or their responses.
Corruption has been one of the causes of poverty in Zambia, and it has a negative effect on the domestic market.
In a corrupt society, anything can be bought for a price. The power is yours. Stop this corruption because it has negative effects. Corruption is one of the causes of poverty and inequality in Zambia. It hurts our communities. Corruption reduces our access to public services, including healthcare and education. Corruption robs us of our opportunities in life. Asking for sexual favors is a form of corruption. Women and girls are particularly vulnerable to it.
Have you experienced something similar? Share your story on shareyourstory.org.zm. Follow #ExposeCorruptionZambia. This message is brought to you by Transparency International Zambia, TIZ.
Welcome back to the grand debate, and I'd like to thank Mr. Chizonde again for coming through from TIZ with the results for who has won this round of debate. Interesting topic we had, if the 2021 elections will be free and fair, and our representatives opposed and proposed the motion, but it's to you to let us know what the judges thought of the debate.
Okay, thank you very much. So I come with, good news from the judges. Yes, obviously, about the debates today. So let me just run through the comments, and then I'll declare who has won the debate after I do that. So first of all, both teams spent too much time on non-essentials, debating people and rumors instead of real issues. The second comment, UNZA did well in research, but the delivery of argument was not convincing. The third one, Eden conducted limited research, but presented convincing arguments and good examples. The fourth comment, both teams could have done better in terms of dress code. And the last comment, UNZA lacked evidence to support some of the arguments. Okay, so having given the comments, don't know where you think it's falling. So the judges have declared that Eden University has won this round of debates.
All right, thank you very much for awarding this opportunity, and thank you very much to GIZ for the platform that we have been fortunately given, because it's a rare privilege that you are given a platform where you are able to hire out views that affect us citizens at national level. And congratulations once more to Eden University for making it to the next rounds of carrying the day. For us, it was a learning experience, and we have learned a lot, at least even from the lose, we have learned our lesson. Thank you.
Thank you. Eden.
First of all, thank you so much to Transparency International Zambia for the platform that you've given us. And I can say, understand as Transparency International Zambia, you're doing a research maybe from this debate. So it's really important, especially in a democratic space, that we get to hear views from the young people, the students. We feel good that you engage us, and we had to hear out our views regarding the matter. And keep it up, your boards, your sponsors. We want these platforms as students, because students are hubs of certain research and knowledge. So given these opportunities, we can be able to raise certain points or information that may be helpful to your research as well. And then to our colleagues from the University of Zambia, we still believe you are the cream of the nation. However, we beat you in this one, and we are humbled by that. So it was a good one, and hopefully next time we can also have more time to be able to debate and do research and understand. On the research part, we didn't really do much. And in terms of the evidence, because we could have got information from the newspapers and so on, but maybe the time that the debate was made aware to us was a bit limited. But being students, we had to gather what we had to do and just thank you.
Collect your.
Thank you. You can now come and collect your trophy. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, this has been the grand debate, and remember to stay tuned. It might be your university, your college debating issues that concern you on governments. And thank you, of course, to TIZ as always for making this opportunity possible. Stay tuned next time, and don't forget to support your opposing or proposing team, and always stay in tune with what's happening around you. Thank you.
Transparency International Zambia is the leading anti-corruption crusader, contributing to Zambia's development based on a culture of integrity, transparency, and accountability through the promotion of good governance and zero tolerance to corruption. For more information, follow us on our Facebook page, Transparency International Zambia, or email info.tizambia.org.zm.